Satyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtake Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham karoti vachanam pangam langyate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanandam Madhavam. So quick recap on the chapter 22, canto 3, the marriage of Kardamuni and Devahuti. So the first part of the chapter, we had done 6 verses, which is essentially a glorification of Swambhavu Manu by Swambhavu Manu of Kardamuni. So if you remember, the 21st chapter had ended with Swambhavu Manu coming into the ashram of Kardamuni and welcomed by Kardamuni. And then Kardamuni, he glorifies Swambhavu Manu. He talks about how he is responsibly taking care of the matters of the kingdom, how as a king he is a role model, he is a representative of the various demigods. And in response to that, Swambhavu Manu, he actually with humility considers the glorification of Kardamuni really as instructions to him. So he is working under the premise that when a great person glorifies your qualities, he is actually instructing him to develop those qualities. So sometimes a spiritual master will talk to a disciple and say that you're getting up early in the morning, it's very good practice. I really appreciate it. So part of it is acknowledging it, but a greater part of it is also saying that this is something that I would like you to do. And it's a quality that I would like, or a practice that I would like you to adhere to. So Swambhavu Manu interprets Kardamuni's glorifications as instructions, and then he thanks Kardamuni. So these first 7 verses are actually an interesting interplay of the relationship between a guru and a disciple. After that, we see Swambhavu Manu offering his daughter to Kardamuni with the various reasons. Kardamuni accepting the offer, but placing a condition that we will see what condition he places. Then the chapter concludes with a brief description of the marriage of Kardamuni and Devahuti, and then the return of Swambhavu Manu and a description of his wonderful rule. So we will resume from the 6th verse of the chapter. Distya me Bhagavan Drishto Durdasho Yukritatmana Distya Pad Rajaha Sprashtam Shishnami Bhavata Sivam. It is my good fortune that I have been able to see you, for one cannot easily be seen by persons who have not subdued the mind or control. For you cannot easily be seen by persons who have not subdued the mind or controlled the senses. I am all the more fortunate to have touched with my head the blessed dust of your feet. So we see this wonderful interaction between a Kshatriya and a Brahman. So as we had earlier said that, in a way, they're both peers. Both of them are sons of Brahma. But Swayambhavu Manu, being a Kshatriya, is taking the position of a disciple and considering Kardam Muni, a Brahman, to be his guru. So in these two verses, 6 and 7, we will see that how Swayambhavu Manu is actually talking about the importance of taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And he gives the reasons over here that a common person is, so he says, you cannot be seen by persons who have not subdued the mind or controlled the senses. So Prabhupada says that the word Akrit Atmanam is significant. So Atma, as we know, it means the self, and it could point to the body, the soul, or the mind. So Akrit Atmanam is one who is unable to control the mind, unable to control the body, which is saying they're unable to control the senses, and soul meaning the person is unaware of the soul. So for such a person, it is very important that they take shelter of, Swayambhavu Manu says, Mahat, or the devotees of the Lord. Why? Because the devotees of the Lord have taken shelter of the Lord. And because they have the shelter of the Lord, they are in a position to give shelter to others. So very succinctly, he is describing the potency and the importance of a guru-disciple relationship. So Prabhupada says that a common man cannot rise to the topmost stage of spiritual perfection simply by following the rituals and religious principles. So this is sometimes said that I have my book of Vedas, or they might say that I have some Laukic cultural or family rituals that I perform, and God sees that I'm doing it sincerely, so I will become perfect. And Prabhupada is saying that not going to happen. That simply by following rituals and religious principles, not going to happen. One has to understand the principle behind it. One has to be instructed on a day-to-day basis. So that is why one has to take shelter of a living bona fide spiritual master. Sometimes people take shelter of personalities that have passed away. And in a way, it is to protect oneself of the need to follow instructions. Because if your guru is not there, he's not there to instruct you. So essentially, you're your own guru. You basically say, my guru wants this. I interpret my guru's instructions in this way. And Prabhupada is saying it's not going to work. You need to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. And then there is a glorification of the shelter. That once you have taken shelter, then let us say, Swayambhavu Manu says that I am all the more fortunate to have touched my head to the blessed dust of your feet. So in the Bhagavatam, this is in the 5th canto, chapter 12, verse 12, Prabhupada quotes a conversation between Jat Bharat and Maharaj Rahugana, where Jat Bharat instructs the king. He says, Mahat Pada Rajo Bhiksham. which means that the holy dust of the lotus feet of her Mahat. Mahat means a great devotee, is what will ultimately deliver the soul from material into spiritual energy. Similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritim ashrita. The reason that it can deliver is because such people, such Mahatmanas are devim prakritim ashrita. That they have taken shelter of the divine energy of Krishna, his Yog Maya, his internal potency. So this is a nice summary description of the need to take shelter of a guru and the process of taking shelter, and why does the shelter work. Next verse. Dishtha tvaya nushishtaham kritascha nugraha maha apavrate karnarandhrera justadistyo shatirgiraha. I have fortunately been instructed by you, and thus great favor has been bestowed upon me. I thank God that I have listened with open ears to your pure words. So this is the second aspect of what does taking shelter mean. Two things. Swambhu Manu says, one is receiving the instructions. So he says that I have received the instructions with an open ear. That means attentively receiving the instructions and then sincerely following them with gratitude. So it should not be that one simply hears and then walks away, but one sincerely follows it with gratitude. So the understanding is that even if the spiritual master gives personal service, the spiritual master says that come and do this for me, that itself will result in immense spiritual advancement. The disciple should not think that I'm giving donation to my guru, or I'm doing so many services to my guru, so my guru is dependent on me. But one should cultivate the mood of this verse that the services are actually favors that are given in order to help the advancement. So Prabhupada in the purport says that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes in his explanation of this verse, in the explanation of the verse in Bhagavad Gita, Vivasatmika Buddhi. So this is one of Prabhupada's, he had many favorite verses, but this is the one that is in that list of favorite verses. This is 241, Vivasatmika Buddhi Ekaya Kuru Nandana. And Prabhupada says that that's the mood of a disciple in relationship to the Guru. So Vivasatmika Buddhi means that the mind is fixed, Ekaya Kuru Nandana, on only one thing. Now Krishna at that point does not really say on what one thing, but in the context, this verse is used on in the context of fixed on Krishna, also used in the context of fixed on Guru. That one is faithfully executing the instructions that is received from the spiritual master as the only duty, that is itself going to give perfection. Verse 8. Sa bhavan duhitrasena pariklasat mano mama shrotam rasidinasya shravitam kripaya mune. O great sage, graciously be pleased to listen to the prayer of my humble self, for my mind is troubled by affection for my daughter. So in 7 verses, from verse 8 to 14, Swayambhavu Manu will offer his daughter to Kardam Muni, and also will mention the reasons why he's offering. So one may question at this point that in the previous verses, Swayambhavu Manu has already said that he has attained perfection. That he came, he was instructed by Kardama Muni, he has indicated his own desire to listen to these instructions with an open heart and mind. So one might question that this verse is kind of breaking the flow. It's kind of like me going to somebody and saying that I'm really happy, I'm really satisfied, but my mind is troubled. So Swayambhavu Manu will elaborate on this seemingly contradictory positions that he is describing himself. So the point that he will develop is that by the mercy of the Guru, the suffering of a disciple goes away because the Guru bestows on the disciple the power of discrimination. So the power of discrimination is discriminating between matter and spirit, discriminating between what one should lament about and what one should not lament about. So Manu is saying over here that despite receiving your mercy, my power of discrimination is not sufficiently strong to address all the troubles in my mind. There is still one suffering which remains in my heart. But expertly, what he is saying is that by your instructions, the other sufferings that I had have gone or will be gone. Now, with your help, this one suffering that still plagues me can also go away. So one might ask at this point that Manu has taken the position of a disciple. Is it fair for a disciple to ask the Guru for service? Because essentially what Kardam Muni is being asked from Swayambhavu Manu is, I want you to marry my daughter. So what the Manu is saying is that your instructions are helping me, but because I'm not completely fixed in your instructions, my mind is still agitated. In order to address that agitation, I would like you to do some service for me. So it's going against the flow of etiquette that Swayambhavu Manu is establishing. And he is obviously an exalted personality. And Prabhupada explains that it is okay. He says that if a disciple is surrendered to a guru, if the disciple to the best of his ability is trying to execute the instructions of the guru, it is okay for the disciple to ask help from the guru. The Prabhupada says he has the right to ask a particular favor from the spiritual master. Generally, a pure devotee of the Lord or a pure disciple of a bona fide spiritual master does not ask any favor, either from the Lord or the spiritual master. But even if there is need to ask a favor from the spiritual master, one can ask that favor. One cannot ask that favor without satisfying him fully. So Prabhupada is equating this very, very parallel to our relationship with Krishna. That generally speaking, the only thing that we should ask Krishna is for service. But what if we have material desires? Should we go to somebody else? No, we should still go to Krishna. But after sincerely trying our best to serve Krishna. Same parallel with the Guru. That we go to Guru for everything, but with sincerity. So we should not make um, so I remember this is actually a guru himself who was sharing this point, that his one of his aspiring disciples would ask him about which real estate investments to do, and he was like, what do I know about real estate investments, and what can I tell him? And then he said, that's not why I'm there for. So and in India it's more prevalent, probably in the West also. There's some people use the guru really as sometimes as a counselor, sometimes to unload their psychological baggage, sometimes to vent, or sometimes for, should I make this investment, should I start this business? And just like we don't use Krishna as an order supplier, we don't use Guru for that purpose also. But within the mood of service to the Guru, Prabhupada saying it's okay, because where else will you go? If you, just like you can't go anywhere outside Krishna, you don't go anywhere outside the realm of your Guru. Okay, verse 9. Priyavato tutan pada swasham duhita mama angachati patim yuktam vayushi lagunadvi. My daughter is the sister of Priyavart and Utanpa. She is seeking a suitable husband in terms of age, character, and good qualities. So now Swayambhu Manu is presenting his daughter's marriage proposal. And he is first talking about her lineage. So he says Duhitamam. So my daughter. So first thing is that she is the daughter of Swayambhu Manu. And then she is the sister of Priyavart and Utanpat. Both of them great personalities, great Kshatriyas are there. So Manu is making the point that his daughter does not come from a low-class family. She is suitable in terms of her status for Kardam Muni. Now, the other point that he's making, Prabhupada says that it is clear that although the daughter was mature in age and qualities, she did not go out and find her husband independently. She expressed her desire for a suitable husband corresponding to her character, age, and quality, and the father himself, out of affection for his daughter, took charge of finding such a husband. So Prabhupada is describing the Vedic way of establishing matrimony, that it is not done without the consultation of the daughter. She has expressed her desire, she has expressed her preferences, expressed her willingness, but it is the father who is seeking a suitable bride. And Prabhupada talks about this in previous purports also, that why this is important. That if young men and women seek out alliances independently, then their choices will be colored by passion. And they may not be able to look at, so they may look at immediate compatibility, but they would not look at long-term compatibility in terms of compatibility of family and status and qualities and propensities. They might just look at their immediate gratification. So in this way, both are both the immediate and long-term compatibility is assured. Verse 10. Yada tu bhavatah shila sutarupa guna ashano naradadesha tvaya krita nishaya. The moment she heard from sage Narad, your noble character, learning, beautiful appearance, youth, and other virtues, she fixed her mind upon you. So Karna Muni may ask that there are other suitable people. There are Kshatriyas who are suitable also. So why have you come to me? And Swayambhu Manu is saying, because my daughter desires an alliance with you. So she heard from Narad about Kardama Muni. And Manu is talking about the things that are important. So what does he say? Noble character, learning, beautiful appearance, youth, and other virtues. So it's a practical enunciation of matrimony. That Manu is also talking about the fact that by appearances he is beautiful, he's youthful. Now youthful is, again, we have to look at it from the perspective of the age, because Kardamuni is more than 10,000 years old, and the Swayambhu Manu is saying youthful because this is Satyug, when people live for 100,000 years. So in that context, he is still considered to be youthful. And again, the verse in a way talks about the importance of Guru, because Devahuti heard from Narad. So she has not seen Kardama Muni, but she has heard from an authoritative source. So information that is given from an authoritative source is better than empirical information. So actually in these 4 verses, 6, 7, 8, and verse 10, Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he writes quite elaborately on the guru-disciple relationship. So I've summarized it in a table, and it's there in the document that I sent you. In verse 6, the point is made, I'm quickly summarizing again. In verse 6, the point is made that a common person who cannot control his mind and senses can rise to the topmost stage by taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. He cannot make perfections through following rituals or religious principles, but only by taking shelter of a bona fide guru. In the verse 7, Srila Prabhupada talks about how to receive from a guru. So he says that the favor of the guru is received by oral reception, hearing, and then to the faithful execution of that which he has received. In verse 8, he talks about how to ask from a guru. That when the disciple is in resonance, Prabhupada uses the word consonance. Consonance means that resonance from both sides. So when he's in consonance with the spiritual master, then out of sincerity, he should go and ask anything and everything from the guru. And then finally, in this 10th verse, Prabhupada mentions that hearing from an authority is better than personal understanding. Okay, verse 11. तत्प्रतीच्छा द्विजाग्र्यमाम् श्रद्धया परतं मया सर्वात्मना पररूपं ते grahamideषु कर्मसु. Therefore, please accept her, O chief of the Brahmins, for I offer her with faith, and as she is in every way, she is in every respect fit to be your wife and take charge of your household duties. So this verse talks about the qualities of a wife. The Prabhupada says that Swambhu Manu is saying, Grahamedeshu karmasu, which means in household duties. And Prabhupada says another word used here is sarvat mananu rupam, which means that the wife is equal to her husband in all ways. So not only in age and character and qualities, but also after marriage, equally in the execution of the grahastha dharma. So in the grahastha ashram, the husband and the wife, they assist each other in making spiritual advancements. The husband is as much dependent on a wife as a wife is dependent on her husband for both material as well as spiritual prosperity. That is the grahastha ashram. Otherwise, it is grahamedi. The grahamedi is where there is simply a union for the satisfaction of the senses over here. Verse 12. Udyatasya kamasya prativado nashashyate api nirmukta sangasya kamaraktasya kim punaha. To deny an offering that has come of itself is not commendable, even for one absolutely free from all attachment, much less one addicted to sensual pleasure. So here you see Swambhu Manu displaying his Kshatriya quality. So he is using a little bit of what you would say Kshatriya diplomacy over here. So Kshatriya diplomacy works at sometimes being direct and sometimes being subtle. So here Swambhu Manu, he addresses Karna Muni as Kama Raktasya, as one who is addicted to sensual pleasures. Now, this is a departure from all the glorification that Manu has been doing of Karna Muni. But factually, he is not using it in a derogatory way, but he's simply using it to convey the fact that he's aware of the desire of Karna Muni to marry and have children. So this is something that he will state explicitly later on. Right now, he's implicitly stating. Now, again, this verse is spoken as a principle. It is not directed at Karna Muni. So he's not saying that you are addicted to sensual pleasures, but the principle that he is stating, and Prabhupada expands on that in the purport, the principle that he is stating is that if a person is offered something, that offering comes on its own, and the offering is in accordance to the religious principles, then it behooves the person to accept the offering. And the reason that is that if such a person has some desires for that offering, but he refuses either out of pride or out of shyness. But because the person has the desire for it, he will still seek that offering. So he will go somewhere else to get that offering. And in that situation, the person may be humiliated. So the principle that he is saying is that if somebody has a desire for something and the desire is being fulfilled according to the principles of dharma, then the person should accept that. If not, then the person will lose his glory. So the next verse will expand on the principle that has been stated. Verse 13. Ya udditam anadritya kinasham abhiyachate kshiyate tad yashah spitam manascha. One who rejects an offering that comes on its own accord, but later begs a boon from a miser, thus loses his widespread reputation, and his pride is humbled by the neglectful behavior of others. So what is the essence of these two verses? One should act as per one's adhikar. That's the principle that's being enunciated. So Swayambhu Manu is saying to Kardam Muni that you have material desires. Now this is not spoken in a derogatory way, because Kardam Muni himself had spoken to the Lord and talked about his material desires. So he's acknowledging it. And he's abstracting it as a principle and saying that if one has material desires, that's one's adhikar. So one should be aware that yes, this is my level. But if one is offered something according to those desires in a religious way, one should accept it. If not, then what does Manu say is that he will later beg a boon from a miser, which means that because the desire is there, driven by the desire, the person will go to somebody else and ask for the fulfillment of that desire. And because asking is considered to be a fall down, such a person will lose his reputation. And because the miser might refuse, his pride will be humbled. So Prabhupada mentions that essentially what Manu is doing is that he wants to convince Kardam Muni to act according to his level of advancement. So he's saying that I'm offering you a suitable wife, which means that this is not against the principles of dharma. One of the principles in marriage is that the wife should be suitable match for the husband. So he's saying, I'm offering a suitable wife to you. You are in the need of a wife. You performed austerities for 10,000 years for a wife. I have come on my own to offer you a wife. So please don't be shy, or please don't be artificially humble and say no to me. Another point Prabhupada makes in the purport is that there is a difference in the status of Swayambhu Manu and Kardam Muni. Swayambhu Manu is the emperor of the world or the universe, and as a king, very, very opulent. And Kardam Muni, he has no worldly possessions. He basically has a hut on the bank of Bindu Sarovar, and all he has is that. But Swayambhu Manu is still saying that this match is suitable. So the understanding is that wealth and other material considerations are not as important as the culture and quality. Now they are also important, but not as important as the culture and the quality of the groom. Okay. So we'll do one more verse and then we'll pause for any discussion. Aham tva shanavam vidvan vivartham samudyatam atastvam upakurvana pratam prate ghranami. Swayambhu Manu continued, O wise man, I heard that you were prepared to marry. Please accept her hand, which is being offered to you by me, since you have not taken a vow of perpetual celibacy. So we had said that how Manu is acting as a Kshatriya or as a king. So he made a principle first. He established a principle, and now he is applying it to the present situation. The principle was, if you have desires, the fulfillment of the desire comes on its own according to the principles of the dharma. One should accept it. Now he is saying that actually this applies to you, that I have heard that you have the desire to marry. My daughter is equal to you in terms of qualities and status. And you have not taken a vow of perpetual celibacy, which means that reinforcing the path that he is desiring to marry and have children. So in doing this, Kardama Muni, Swayambhu Manu is answering. So Kardama Muni may implicitly ask him that, how do you know that I want to marry? Why is all this conversation even happening? And Manu says that I've heard. Essentially, he's heard from Krishna. He does not speak. He does not give that reference. But Kardama Muni understands, because the only person Kardama Muni spoke to was Krishna. So he says that I've heard that you want to get married. And Prabhupada comments on the fact that he is in the state of upakurvana. So there are essentially 4 kinds of brahmacharya vrata. So they are called Savitra, Prajapatya, then Upakurvan, or it's also known as Brahma, and Brahat or Naishtik. And the vrat depends on how long does the person remain celibate. So Naishtik is the person is perpetually celibate. He never marries. So like the 4 Kumars, they're Naishtik brahmacharis, or Bhishma Dev, Naishtik brahmachari. They're celibate through their entire life. Then Upakurvan or Brahma, which is what is used by Manu to describe Kardama Muni, literally it means that the person remains celibate while learning the Vedas. So basically it means the person remains celibate until the person is married. So while learning the Vedas is brahmacharya. Once the person has read the Vedas, has received the permission from the Guru, the person marries. So that is Upakurvan. And this is the situation of Kardama Muni. Then Savitra and Prajapatya are situations where people remain celibate for shorter periods of time. Savitra is, so there are different understandings of it, but they are basically situations where the period of celibacy is further restricted, shorter. And Savitra is the shortest, and after that it is Prajapatya. So Manu is saying that I know that you have taken the Upakurvana path. that after you finish your brahmacharya ashram, you want to enter grahastha ashram. So it is the suitable time for you, and I have a suitable match for you, and it is also in line with your own desires. Okay, let me pause here, see if you have any comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. Prabhu, regarding the sixth verse that you saw, the purport at the very end, Prabhupada says, common man who doesn't have a perfect knowledge, by taking the shelter of a spiritual master, can become perfect. That's the purport. And we also recently I was also discussing the 2.41, the Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. In that, the last paragraph, that purport, it says one has to have a perfect knowledge of soul and the body, and on the realized platform, that is practically living on the soul platform, not having sense gratification. There is no chance for sense gratification. Only such person can carry out the instruction of spiritual master. So can you please, this looks like a, one comes the, I don't know how to combine these two. Can you please make some connection between these two? What it means. On the one hand, it says a common man can become perfect. On the other hand, it says perfect knowledge is a prerequisite in order to carry out or in order to take shelter of the spiritual master.
Thank you. I think it's a very thoughtful observation. And I can open it up for discussion from you. I can definitely share what I think about it. It's basically making this connection between the process and its perfection. Like we say that we chant so that we can chant. We chant imperfectly so that we can chant perfectly. So how do we become a perfect disciple? By becoming, first starting off as an imperfect but essentially trying disciple. And otherwise, as you're pointing out, it becomes a catch-22. That without taking shelter of a guru, you cannot become perfect. And you have to be perfect to take shelter of a guru, which means that nobody can take shelter. But then the understanding is that even if one in imperfection takes the shelter of a guru and then sincerely follows the process, then the process will deliver the perfection. And in that state of perfection, one will be able to perfectly follow the instructions of the guru. Because earlier on, we received the instructions of the guru, and even though we have sincerity, we're not able to follow it. Right? And the guru also understands. They don't abandon the disciples. So many times, spiritual master will talk about the recommended conduct, sometimes in specific instructions, sometimes in general instructions. Chant the rounds sincerely, attend Mangalarti, avoid bad habits, etc., etc. We're all familiar with them, and we listen to them and we try and follow them. Sometimes with more success, sometimes with less success. But then the understanding is that as we follow it, the needle goes more and more towards more success and less failure. And then when we are at a point where the process has purified us, then we can follow the instructions perfectly. Then we are the disciple. I remember there was a Prabhupada disciple who had once come. I was given some service for him. And then I was just taking that opportunity to talk to him. And I opened the conversation. I said, so Prabhu, you're a disciple of Prabhupada. And he said, I'm trying to be a disciple. And then later on, I understood that, this is the point that he's making, that uh, um, and of course he was talking out of humility, but the principle, that point that he was making was that when we take shelter, we are trying to be disciples. And when we perfect our ability to follow the instructions, then we are disciples. Then we can say that I am a disciple of my Guru Maharaj. That's my understanding, Prabhu. Anybody else would like to add, or if you would like to add your reflections, I'll be more than interested in listening.
I think that's a very good thing, Prabhu. We also ended up discussing on the similar line, but I wanted to make sure that we are not beating around the bush. Sometime these kind of things, we need confirmation, we need more assurances from the senior devotees. And the second thing is, as you are mentioning, as you are saying that taking the following the instructions of a guru, by that one becomes perfect, and then one can take shelter of a guru as a proper disciple proper or perfect disciple. So now the question is, um, for it says one has to have a perfect knowledge of soul and body, and one has to be living on the platform of soul, in other words, more on the spiritual platform, in order to take shelter of the guru. And many of us, and for example, I've been practicing for the past 17-18 years or whatever, and we have access to the perfect knowledge, but yet that following the instruction of the spiritual master, sometimes it's becoming very difficult. So what is that which is preventing us from taking that step of taking the following the instruction of spiritual master, although we have the access to this perfect knowledge? Any thoughts on that?
So Vishwanath Chakravarti speaks about it in Madhurya Kadamini when he describes Anishta Bhakti. What you are describing and what we all experience is Anishta Bhakti. That there is bhakti, there is faith, there is a desire, but it wavers. It's sometimes strong and sometimes weak. And the cause of Anishta Bhakti is essentially anarthas. That our own impurities that we have gathered so diligently over so many lifetimes, and we've been carrying them with us. So because of those anarthas, we are not able to convert this knowledge to realization. So you very aptly put it, we have access to the knowledge. So somebody comes and tells me that you're not the body, you're the soul. And I'll say, I know that, Prabhu. I read the Bhagavad Gita. Natvoyam Jatuna Ashram. Krishna said, I'm not the body, I'm the soul. But then do I act on that platform? No. So there is a gap between Gyan and Vigyan. And these anarthas are sitting between Gyan and Vigyan. So because the anarthas have been generated experientially, they're also eliminated experientially for the most time. There are some who are Kripasiddhas, but for the most time, for the most situation, they're also eliminated experientially. So because we did a certain kind of activities, we developed these anarthas, whether it is lust or pride or whatever it is. And when we do a certain kind of activities, these anarthas will dissolve. And because we've accumulated them over millions of lifetimes, it's not that we have to spend millions of lifetimes to eliminate them, but it's a process. Right? In the Nectar Devotion, it is said that anarthas will continue all the way till the stage of Bhava Bhakti. So from Bhajana Kriya to Nishtha to Richi to Asakti, all the way till Bhava Bhakti, there are anarthas. Bharat Maharaj was said to be at the stage of Bhava. Such an exalted sage, king and a Raja Rishi. And he developed attraction for a deer. Why? Because there were some latent anarthas still in his heart, which given the right condition, they manifested. And of course, by Krishna's mercy, he was able to ultimately conquer them. Took him 2 lifetimes to do that. So that's our situation. That our fidelity is to the process, our faith is to the process. And with all the imperfections that we have, the process is perfect. We follow it, it will gradually purify us. And it will take us to the stage, and it is already taking us. So you say you've been practicing for 17, 18 years. If you think back to the time when you were practicing 10 years ago to now, or better still, you ask your wife or somebody close to you, they can talk to you about the difference that they see in you. And I can assure you there is difference, because that's the process. It creates a difference. Maybe because it is within us, we do not see that, but the process is there, it is working. We can introspect, or we can ask somebody else. We can talk to those who are near to us, who are our guru, and they can also talk about the efficacy of the process. How would you have reacted to an adversity 10 years ago? How do you react to it now? What are your aspirations and ambitions 10 years ago? What are they now? What agitates you? What makes you happy? And when you do a side-by-side analysis, you will see that how the process is working. And the difference in the two is the elimination of the anarthas as a gradual process.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Just one follow-up question. Hope others won't mind on this. Is it okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Just the follow-up question is, in the meantime, so while we are clearing our anarthas through the process of the devotional service, which probably includes the bhajana kriya, which is following the instruction of spiritual master also. But what should we do with the instructions of the spiritual master, which we could not carry out because of the anarthas? So what do we do with that? And how, any thoughts on that? And should we decline, or should we keep it, or because if I don't carry out and if I keep it, somebody else would have the chance to do the same thing, same project or whatever it is. And if I don't give a proper response or proper reciprocation, then so can you throw some light on that? Hope it is not too much of a digression from the topic.
No, it actually kind of, to use Prabhupada's word, there is some consonance with the verses that we initially did. So a couple of things. One thing is, your spiritual master will never ask you to do something that you are not able to do, because more than you, he is interested in you making spiritual advancements. He's interested in you making spiritual advancement. So if he says to you, Nand Gopal Prabhu, take sannyas, right? I'm now using it as an example. Maybe you're ready for sannyas, but let's assume that he says, take sannyas, and you say, I can't. Now, disobeying the orders of the spiritual master is as good as ending your spiritual life, right? Guru Avijja. So the guru will not give you an instruction that he knows you will not be able to follow. Secondly, the guru is more aware of your adhikar than you are yourself. So the guru will give you instruction that puts you in the stretch zone. So they're not there to comfort you in your safe zone. That, okay, Prabhu, you're chanting 16 rounds, very good. Just stay there, and whatever you're doing is fine. But it's the duty of the guru. Prabhupada would say that to his disciples, that you're doing so much for me, and yet I'm asking you to do more. And he said, what can I do? That's my duty as a guru. So it is their duty to push you into the stretch zone, where it takes you a little bit more than what you are doing to execute. Now, from a very practical perspective, if understanding this principle, if there is a service that the guru gives you, which you should understand, is again the guru understanding your adhikar, finds it suitable to give you. It is important for you to ascertain the nature of this service. And I can speak from personal experience that I was once asked, or I thought I was asked to do something by my Guru Maharaj. And I thought about it for a long time, and I couldn't do it. Essentially, we had gone to him with concerns about our son, that he was 5 years old at the time, and we said that he's going to school and to public school, etc. And the Maharaj said, you send him to Gurukul. And both my wife and I, we talked about it, and we were I guess attached to our son, so we went back to Guru Maharaj and said that we're attached to him. And the Maharaj said, what's the problem? You also go with him to Vrindavan. So then we thought about that, and then we went back to him, and by this time we were quite perturbed, because we thought we were disobeying two of his instructions. So I said, Maharaj, I'm not ready to give up my job and everything and go and live in Vrindavan. Financially, I'm not there, and emotionally, I'm not there. And then Maharaj said, okay. Then then he started speaking about how to make sure that if your son is going to a public school, his spiritual life is taken care of. So, and then I said, but Maharaj, I'm concerned that I'm disobeying your instructions, and I'm concerned about that. Maharaj said, I never gave you any instructions. They were just recommendations. When I give you an instruction, then you will know it's an instruction. So you have to have the sensibility to distinguish between a recommendation and an instruction. So, and of course, there was a lot of follow-up conversation. But related to the point that you were making, if you feel that the spiritual master is giving you some service, and you feel that it is probably difficult for you to execute it for whatever reasons, where would you take shelter? Once again, to the spiritual master. And he might say that, I gave it to you for your consideration. Now you come back to me saying that you're working 18 hours a day and, etc., and you can't do it, it's fine. Or you come to me and saying that this service, like my Guru Maharaj once gave me the service of translating his lectures from English to Hindi. And in 1 month, I could translate only one lecture. And he called me and he asked me, how many lectures have you translated? I said, translated 40 minutes of your lecture. And he said, 40 minutes in 1 month? What are you doing? And I said, Maharaj, firstly, I'm not able to find the Hindi words for the English that you have used. And secondly, I felt very uncomfortable paraphrasing the lecture. So Maharaj said, no, it's okay, you paraphrase it. Just keep the essence. I went back, I tried again, but I was not able to do it, because I would paraphrase it and then I would listen to my translation and his lecture. And I just felt I was not being true, because paraphrasing, you lose the sense. So I went back to him and I said, I just can't do it. I paraphrase it and I listen to my lecture and then I over record, and it's taking me a long time. And then Maharaj just laughed and he said, forget about it, I'll give it to somebody else. So, he gave the service to somebody else. So it's just that you have to have an honest, frank conversation. And at the end of the day, if the Guru Maharaj still thinks that the service is for you to do, then then that becomes your service. And if he is able to see things from different perspectives, or he is able to demonstrate his own perspectives, then it's a learning experience for you. Is it okay, Prabhu?
That's very wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and it really gives some practical vision about all this process, how this wonderful process unfolds.
It does not show me in a very good light, but It is what it is, Prabhu. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. August Gurmaharaj Papa. I was thinking one thing that looking at the position of Devahuti, it's like very hard for me to think that as a wife or as a mother or a daughter-in-law or all the positions or whatever I have, it's like kind of very hard for me to take it like as a neophyte devotee, practicing devotee, like how to handle how to look at the things, how Devahuti is like kind of, it's like she's very elevated soul, but by reading all these purports, I think that it's very, how to take it, bro. It's very hard how to think that kind of lot of material problems and looking at each person's perspective, a lot of expectation.
You're right. The pastimes that are given over here are of exalted personalities who are representing near perfection in the spectrum. And so we're talking about Devahuti, who's the daughter of Swayambhuvan, who is the son of Brahma, Kadamuni, who is the son of Brahma. And so they're exalted personalities. They're put here as aspirational goals. They're definitely goals for us. So it's not that we say that Devahuti is so much different era, different time, different level of advancement. So um, I won't even attempt to emulate her. But it's okay for us to say that it is difficult for me to be at her level, but at least I can aspire to be that. Shanai Shanai, slowly, slowly. The process of bhakti, it works slowly, slowly. That uh, we are able to attain the the most rarefied, exalted stages without even realizing it. That's the beauty of bhakti. Devotees will always think that I have so many shortcomings, I have so many ways that I can improve. This is not to say that devotees are a nihilistic bunch and they're basically have low self-esteem, but it's a symptom of their humility. But Shanai Shanai, slowly, slowly, the process works, and uh, one gets. If you look at the relationship between Kardamuni and Devahuti, she served her husband, but she also had desires. Right? When Kardamuni was happy, we'll see that in the next chapter. When Kardamuni was happy with Devahuti, then what did Devahuti say that? She says, I want to enjoy. And Devahuti and Kardamuni says, yes, absolutely, it is my duty as a husband, and it is your right as a wife to ask for it. Right? So it represents it represents perfection with all its glories. That Kardamuni is perfect, and he's perfect. He's praying to Krishna, but he's also acknowledging the fact that he has desires to marry. Kardamuni serves her husband faithfully for so many years, and then she talks about a desire to enjoy and have children. Everything is done according to the principles of religion, and because the process is working, everybody reaches perfection. Kardamuni goes to Grahastha ashram, and then he perfects it, and he goes back to Godhead. Devahuti goes through all the process, and she also perfects it and goes back to Godhead. So if anything, this pastime, it is they accomplished everything in a single lifetime, and it seemed that the conclusion was foregone, that they were simply going through the motions. But essentially, it is a reflection on on the fact that when devotees are aspiring, they're aspiring with all their material desires. And as they follow through to the best of their ability, then the reciprocation of Krishna is the most powerful factor that comes. That Kapila Muni's instructions to Devahuti was simply because of her sincere desire, not because she was his mother. Even though he says that you're my mother, I'm affectionate towards you, but he's the personality of God. He has no mother. But really speaking, because she was sincerely serving her husband, and when the time came to let her husband go, she let him go. And then when the time came, she inquired submissively from him, listened attentively to him. That was the reason why Devahuti attains perfection. So, I hear what you're saying, and it's something that is shared by almost every practicing devotee. But my answer would be the same that I gave Nandgopal Prabhu, that as long as we are true to the process that we are following, with all the imperfections that we have, as long as we are true to the process will ultimately elevate us. If we think that we will become perfect, Prabhupada will say that is Mayavad. If you think that you will become perfect by your own endeavor, that you will attain the purity by your own endeavor, so that's not our way. That's Mayavad. We are imperfect. We have our adhikar to do whatever we do by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, by the mercy of the process given by them. We will ultimately attain perfection.
Thank you, Prabhu. And maybe it's going back to again Bhakti Shastri. I was thinking that it's kind of hearing and reading. It's kind of a lot of things to learn and practice. But practically, it's like kind of whenever I face some kind of troubles or something, then again it's very hard for me to like apply it. So I was thinking it's very really touching. So practice and faithfully doing devotional service to Krishna, then Krishna will reciprocate. So that's what I understood. So
Yes. Thank you.
thank
Thank
you,
you for
Prabhu.
sharing your realizations.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, just one quick question on the on your answer to Nandgopal Prabhu's question, and where you mentioned that to look back and see how you would have reacted, like say 15 years ago, 10 years ago, right, to the same situation before practicing and after practicing. So, sometimes I feel like how I would have reacted like 5 years ago, I probably, I mean, obviously, I will not react the same way today, but sometimes I feel like it could be the age factor also that is playing, and so I don't know whether it is really the maturity that comes with age or whether it is the anarthas that are subsiding. So how do you kind of know that difference? Like what exactly is because as you age, you are obviously going more. I mean, becoming more. The modes are you basically the goodness factor is increasing, and passion and all.
That is true. It's a good point you bring. So Prabhupada would say that the index to your spiritual advancement can be measured in two ways, and he's stating one of the universal principles of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, of advancement in bhakti. There are two things that happen: material detachment and spiritual attachment. And that has nothing to do with the moods. Even people who are advanced in age, um, um, they may react less to the pushings of the mode, but the moods are still there. It's not that, when a person is old, then he gives up the desire to accrue wealth, or he gives up the desire for glory. They morph into different things. A young man may be more passionate in his amorous pursuits. An old man will be more passionate in his pursuit for glory and status and prestige. The pushings are still there. The objects may change, but ultimately, what spirituality does is that it drives away the pushings. So this is one way to evaluate. If you look at yourself, like you're saying, 5 years ago, what was your level of material attachment at that time, and what is it now? Are you more detached? Are you spiritually more attached? And if you're following the process, then you will see a difference in so many tangible ways. Especially material attachment, that shows up more strongly. Spiritual attachment, devotees tend to second guess themselves. They'll say, yeah, I was always attracted to Krishna. And sometimes they'll say, well, actually, I felt I was more attracted earlier on. Now I tend to take him for granted. When I was first chanting, I really felt the the tingle with the holy name. Now I don't. Now it's become more of routine. So for spiritual attachment, devotees tend to be more hard on themselves. But material detachment, that shows up like anything. And that's why this kind of introspection is actually healthy and recommended for devotees to measure their own progress. Also, your Guru Maharaj will let you know, or if your Guru Maharaj has appointed somebody to be your counselor, or senior devotees who are in contact with you, they will let you know. But you can look at it. You can look at it from yourself. That how do you react to honor and dishonor? How do you react to envy? You see some person who's materially more accomplished than you. Do you feel envious of the person, or are the pushings lesser? So as you do more and more ticks on the appropriate boxes, you'll come up with you do it objectively, you'll come up with a nice roadmap of your spiritual progress.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice questions. And I think Prabhupada's purport has been written to stir these thoughts in us. So he extracts this essence of the duty of a disciple and the potency of a guru very nicely in these the previous 7 verses. So I'm happy and thankful that these points have come up.
I have a comment. Can I make a comment?
Yes, Prabhu, please do.
Yeah, very, very interesting section, wonderful discussion. I like the point that you made that we must have the intelligence to decipher between what is an instruction and what is a recommendation. Sometimes there's like a thin line there we are not so clear about, but we often hear another side of that behind the instruction of the spiritual master, there is the empowerment. In other words, he wouldn't give us something that he feels that we can't accomplish. So within that instruction is the empowerment. He empowers us. We simply have to endeavor. So I'm just wondering how we can reconcile, that aspect of it, and whether it's we should just think that it's a recommendation. I'm just trying to figure that out, because we see that many times that Prabhupada talks about that in his own life, that his spiritual master give him, an instruction to preach in the West, and he couldn't do it. And he meditated on it for years, maybe 20 years. But then, he couldn't do it, but he said he meditated on how he could get it done. It couldn't be done, at the same time, but it took many, many years. But finally, success came beyond his expectation, simply by the endeavor. So I'm just trying to figure, in this context, our discussion, what's your thoughts on that?
You bring a very valid point that yes, the instructions of the spiritual master also carry his potency in them. And again, when the spiritual master gives an instruction, he will make sure that you understand that it's an instruction. Because when you receive an instruction, there's no question of not following it, right? When the spiritual master says that, do this, follow the 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds, or whatever, depending on the relationship the Guru Maharaj instructs, there's no question of not following it. Because if you don't follow it, then your spiritual life is ended at that point, which is why the spiritual master is also very careful in making sure that the instructions that you have are those that will help you grow, but not break you. They are the ones that will make you, but not break you. So my experience has been that when the spiritual master gives an instruction, then there is no ambiguity about it, that I would like you to do. And if there is ambiguity, then that's where the pariprashnena comes in. It's a duty of the disciple to clear that ambiguity from their end. Is this an instruction, or is this something that you would like me to do? And that inquiry should go on until this is clearly distilled. That if this is something that I have to do it, or this is something that is good for me. A recommendation by a guru is also very important, and one should not just brush it aside, saying that, well, it's a recommendation. If sometimes I may do it. One should not look upon it like that. It also needs to be taken with gravity. But instruction is an instruction, that you follow it until, for whatever reason, you're not able to, and then only your spiritual master has the ability to modify that instruction. There was once this situation when Srila Prabhupada was having a conversation with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And it's a popular incident, so you probably heard about it. I forget the antecedent, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj kind of made a flippant comment to Prabhupada that maybe I should go to China and preach. And Prabhupada said, yes, go to China and preach. So initially, Tamal Krishna Maharaj thought that it was just something that Prabhupada said. But being a sincere devotee, he goes back to Prabhupada, and this all happens within the same conversation. It's not for many days, and he keeps asking clarification. But it's difficult to. It's communist and all that. Prabhupada said, no, preach in China. And then finally he says that, are you instructing me to go to China? I say, yes, I'm instructing you to go to China and preach. And then, of course, the point that you're making was that with that instruction was also the empowerment. That yes, he was able to go there. He started at least something, which later on Umapati Swami and others, they took it to the next level, but he at least started something over there. So that's the mood, that it's a duty of the disciple to keep inquiring until they're able to distinguish that is this something that is an instruction, or it is something that is highly recommended for my spiritual welfare.
Yeah, I thought that's wonderful little pastime that explains it. I remember another incident, and this might be a little slightly different, but it's related. Where my spiritual master, he told us at that time he was secretary to Prabhupada for 6 full months. So he used to type Prabhupada's letters. It means Prabhupada used to dictate, and he used to type his his letters. But this particular day, he made a mistake, and the letter was destined to some other devotee, and the content was completely, wouldn't make sense. He sent it to, the wrong person. And Prabhupada was so upset with him. And he was trying to give different explanations, different excuses, and Prabhupada wasn't letting up. Prabhupada was like so heavy with him that he broke down in tears. And even though he broke down in tears, Prabhupada was still, not. And finally what happened was that, he told Prabhupada what he intended to do to rectify the situation. And then Prabhupada just, said, well, just do it. And that, but what I'm trying to say is that sometimes the spiritual master could be so heavy, it's not like you. I mean, you explained to us nicely that, okay, don't follow I never said instruction. I just said, recommendation. But there are several occasions that he told us where Prabhupada was so heavy with him that he broke in tears. One time he cut one tree down in Boston. He was the temple president of Boston, and Prabhupada was visiting, and Prabhupada said, "You Westerners," he just addressed him in very strong language, and he was just dumbfounded. So even though he was doing so wonderful service, this, that, and the other, for something little, he got just so heavy he just died. One time he was cutting vegetables to cook for Prabhupada, and I think it was a squash. He couldn't peel the squash and cut it the way Prabhupada, and Prabhupada showed him once, twice, and he still couldn't get it right. And Prabhupada said to him, "You would not learn in 300 years." So it was like, so sometimes, the spiritual master could be, very, very heavy. But at the same time, in one moment, that's what Prabhupada did. One moment, his whole mood would change, and he would forget, everything as if it didn't, happen at all. So, I mean, hearing this little discussion about the guru-disciple relationship and all that, I thought I'd just share, these few pastimes or whatever.
Thank you for sharing, Paramatma Prabhu. Yeah, and I was actually thinking of one of the situations where it was the opposite. That I think once Prabhupada was asked in a semi-public surrounding that what should a sannyasi do if he's not able to follow his vows? And Prabhupada said he should give up his body. And one of his sannyasi disciples was actually in that situation. And he actually gave up his body. And when Prabhupada was told about it, he was very sad. And he was saying that this is not, he said, this was a general, I'm paraphrasing, but something to the level effect that he said, this is a general statement that I made. He should have talked to me. Specifically, he said, he should have talked to me before taking this step. So it's one of the cases where Prabhupada spoke something which was from a general perspective and not meant to be taken as an instruction. And unfortunately, this particular disciple took it as an instruction and gave up his body. And Prabhupada clearly said, not an instruction, just a general statement there. So I think that's where this this dialogue is very, pariprashnena sevaya, that connection is very, very important, that the disciple should constantly seek clarification, and the sevaya, which is after having received the clarification, act upon the instruction. That connection is very important there. Okay, so if there are no more questions, we'll end over here. Thank you very much for a wonderful discussion. We will resume our discussion on Wednesday. Vanchakalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.